Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Friends from Work. I am Tom, this is Sean, and on today's episode, we are going to be discussing the fall of Marvel and the DC era and how indie comics are coming to do a hostile takeover. But before we do that, do us a favor, leave a like right now, subscribe down below, follow us on TikTok and Instagram. Links are on the screen, and I think I said that already.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah,
this one.
well, possibly spoilers.
Comment down below if you can think of any indie comics. That,
comment on this episode. So yeah, I want to discuss the ones that are currently out, and to put it in perspective on, it's been a slow thing, but I think recently in these next couple of years we're going to see a huge.
I think it's already started. I guess
yeah,
you're
that's
right.
what I'm
It's
saying.
kind of slow. Yeah,
It's slow, but I think we're going to see a big ramp up very recently. What's currently out is, I mean, I have to include it, The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
That's by far the biggest indie comic that's out. It was made by Image, written by Robert, or published
that's
by
out.
Image.
I would say The Boys.
Yeah, The
Boys.
Boys,
Would be the
yeah.
biggest one. But
Yeah.
I guess Walking Dead
Overall.
started it.
Yeah. Written by Robert Kirkman. AMC produced that. And then, The Boys, written, it was actually produced by Dynamite Entertainment. Never heard of them. But written by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. And then we have Why the Last Man. I never watched it, but Sean said he did. He said
I'm a big fan of the comic too. I read
Yeah.
the whole comic long before the show ever came out. So, yeah.
And then Riverdale was actually comic. It was made by Archie Comics.
Yeah.
I didn't know
You
that.
didn't know that all the characters are from Archie.
I didn't know that.
The main character is Archie, isn't it? Or something
I've
like that?
never watched the show ever.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. It's like but I knew it was. I guess I didn't even think about it being like put it in that category.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just a play on all their names. But like I don't know if it's like stories from the comic. I just thought they had all their names.
Yeah, and then also we got Umbrella Academy 2,
yeah.
published by Dark Horse Comics, and then famously written by Gerard Way. That's wrapping up actually this year on Netflix. And then Invincible, I skipped over that. I think you mentioned that.
No, I didn't mention
The Boys.
that's animated. So
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know if that was on the
animated.
list, but Invincible,
Well, yeah.
Invincible and The Boys are two of the
Yeah.
bigger indie comics,
Yeah.
like long before they became shows too. So
Yeah, I didn't include any animes because they're always traditionally produced straight to animation.
Yeah,
like that.
animes wouldn't count because they're all comic. Like it isn't like a.
No, it's a different genre. So I wanted to include
it's
true,
mangas. Yeah, they're not even called
independent
comics.
labeled comics.
And then Tom brought to my attention that Sweet Tooth was DC. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
I
But
thought-
I
I-
personally think it falls like me and him were kind of talking about. I kind of think it falls under indie.
I thought
like I'm
about
assuming
that.
they write it, like they own the rights to it. But I'm sure like some small fry who doesn't have shit to do with anything is writing it. Like
I was gonna throw in Sandman too, but I was like, I gotta be fair. Because I didn't want any affiliation.
Well, Sandman's different. Sandman is a part of the
Yeah.
like the DC, like the
DC universe.
like the universe and like the storyline. Saying like that's kind of a part of it. So, but Sweet Tooth is like its own thing. Like I'm assuming that like the guy just works for DC and he wrote that on the side. Because one of mine I have is written by Jonathan Hickman and he's famous for writing for Marvel. He wrote like all of Marvel's new shit.
Okay.
So like I'm pretty sure that comic isn't under Marvel. I don't know. But,
Yeah.
I
So
thought Sweet Tooth was it seemed indie to me. I read the comic book too. It doesn't. I don't remember it saying DC on there. I just can't remember.
I thought it was independent too,
Yeah.
but then I was doing research like all night last night and this morning, and it said DC. Like I was like, oh, who's the publisher? And I was like, oh, sometimes like you buy, like you said, buy the rights, but it was like it was been DC.
Yeah.
From what I found, guys, if you find something else, please let us know in the comments, obviously. But yeah, and I want to discuss before I say what's in development. The reason we're bringing this topic up is, I believe I talked to, if you watch our Murder Mystery 2 episode, we kind of
completely off topic.
Yeah, completely off topic. We reviewed the movie for about 5 minutes. I mean, that's all you need for it. But we had a good conversation that inspired this was that everything's been getting stale lately, pretty bland. That's in general purpose, but it's also fallen on Marvel too. We brought that up a bit. It's starting to just become like a very boring thing to watch and predictable. And I want to think of another word, just like played out.
My problem with it is they're trying to make it too inclusive. Like they're changing things in the traditional story to try and garner more fans.
Yeah.
And that frustrates the traditional fans. And I think with indie, they don't do that. They're like, if you don't like my story, it was already weird and nobody liked it before, so I'm fine with it. And with Marvel, they're like, they started off doing that, being true to the comics, and now it just feels like somebody's gay or their brother's gay or their, you know what I mean, their dad's dad, or you know what I mean, they got two moms, like just stuff that like again, I don't necessarily know we're part of the comic or they're making it a bigger deal in this movie than it ever was in the comic. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And I think that's turning people off to it. And we talked about in our thing, it's just like with DC, it's like with some of these bigger arcs, you have to do this, you have to do the comic or people are just going to be in a rage. Like you have to do what the comic book did. And when you're making something up, changing it, then, oh, well, now he's gay. Oh, you know what I mean? This guy's got 2 dads. Like, you know what I mean? Just weird stuff is happening. And it really takes away from what people came to see. It's like you just do the comic book.
Yeah.
Harry Potter has a similar problem. A lot of stuff that gets too mainstream has a problem where, like, they change things to like, oh, because of what's going on in society currently, because they want more people to come see their movie.
Yeah, it's that. And then I would also say it's becoming overly simple for my taste. It just, I really like original stories. And obviously superheroes, it's not original, so to speak, but they have very interesting storylines, and they don't really follow that anymore. And it feels like with a lot of Marvel and DC stuff, they're just kind of going, let me just kind of throw this in there, and it's not hitting as much, especially with the shows and I think the oversaturation of it all.
That's a good word.
And a lot of the stuff has been very mid lately. Yeah. Like I think the last quality movie, and I like No Way Home, but I'm not even gonna put it there. Like true, like with some depth and substance to my mind, is Winter Soldier. That's one of my favorites.
I think that's one of the, I think Civil War had a little bit in it.
But like it's been very shallow. I think what I haven't really seen a lot of depth, and I'm not saying they have to go like crazy in depth and like super what is it called? Not theoretical, but you know what I mean.
I think you need to pick and choose what characters you go in depth with. I think they make that mistake. It's like when they're trying to go in depth with Thor, like nobody wants to see that. Like, and it just doesn't make any sense. You have to like make stuff up for it to be cool. Like, oh, Jane dies, and then he adopts this little girl who's a god. Like, I don't know. I can't remember that being an arc in the comic. Like, you gotta like.
I know Jane dies in the comic.
Yeah, I know that, but I don't remember him like some girl getting the power of eternity, and then she was now Thor's daughter, and like
that part.
Like again, like you have to make up stuff to go into depth of Thor's story. Like, you know what I mean? There's certain characters like Doctor Strange who have like weird arcs where like you kind of can go like Thor's the god of thunder who's like a badass. You don't really it's weird when you're like trying to make him all emotional and things like it just didn't hit for me. Like I said, I disagree. I wouldn't go so far all the way back to when I thought Black Panther was a decent plot. I didn't like that they killed off the Black Panther, but I thought it had like a story. Like the governments were trying to take the vibranium. They introduced a new character. You know, people died. The mom died. Like I felt like there was some shit going. Like in Ant-Man, nobody died. Nobody died. Like a bunch of people. Like people got fucked up in Black Panther. Like I might not have liked. I didn't like it transitioning from Chadwick Boseman to Shuri, but I thought the movie had some substance to it, where like it was about grieving, which I'm not a super fan of. But at least it wasn't something stupid like LGBT. I don't mean to say that's stupid, but just like some made up stuff where like, even though is Shuri gay?
Well, I think
like they could have
to help Sean here so he doesn't get canceled. Like what he's saying is, it comes out of nowhere. They haven't developed it originally from the first film or initialized it from the start. It just they throw it in randomly.
Yes, and even though Chadwick Boseman died, all the stuff they did, like you said, played on what had already happened before. Like his dad died, and then there was this new thing, and so I thought that story had, like I said, it wasn't how I would have done it. There's things I would have changed, but I think that at least had like some plot to it. We met Namor; his story was new and it was interesting. Again, I like No Way Home. I thought it was a good story. A lot of these I don't think need the story isn't the problem. Like I think that's where they're doing too much, trying to be cute and like make this like touch all of our hearts, like with No Way Home with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. I mean, and it worked.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's not working.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while, you hit strike lightning and this shit works. But some of the other ones, it's just really not hitting. I guess it's simple.
It's simple to me. Cause
you're right. It is simple, but I don't know if that is that a good like. It was an Iron Man simple.
Well, it's not. It's when I say simple, I mean like. It's just becoming. It feels like to me very recently. Feels like it's becoming watching the same thing. Like, obviously, bare bones, everything's the same. Yeah. Obviously, with superhero movies, but you could have some differences or some originality to it. To me, even Kevin Feige, they're doing adjustments right now, so it's quality over quantity. it just felt like, all right, bare bones, bare bones, bare bones, and then we need to add this one thing to kind of move our plot. And it was like that. It wasn't really good, and it wasn't really entertaining. And it's very recently I've been feeling like
I
this.
think more so it's all the heroes we love are gone too.
That's also a fact.
I mean, and then they fucked up Thor, but it's like no Captain America, no Iron Man, Black Widow's gone.
Yeah. There's not really development.
Spider-Man's off the team.
Yeah.
Like now it's a bunch of these ragtag group of people who aren't like we've been talking about, haven't even grouped up yet.
Yeah.
It's like it's boring. So it's like that where I guess you're right, where it's like, oh, it's too simple. It's like, yeah, though these guys have to be Bucky's story. A story about Bucky's gotta have a plot. With Sam's gotta have a plot. Like these. Like Iron Man can be simple, as long you know what I mean. Suit, bad guy,
or like
him being sarcastic.
She-Hulk, they could have done some like what they were trying to do, and they failed really bad. I mean, they failed a lot with that show, but what they were trying to do is like trying to make us feel sympathetic towards her for certain ways, and they handled that extremely improperly.
I just think you're right. Not sympathetic towards her, but I thought. More so sympathetic towards women in general, and they were using her as the conduit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Though, but I'm saying for her character, and like that's what I'm saying. Is like for in that show, they didn't connect right. And there's not.
There was no plot. He said that. I think it was simple. Like they were trying to do like, oh, women have it worse, and it's like, in some instances they do, in others they do not. But they could have done, like we talked about, like they could have done a lawyer show and made it interesting about her being a lawyer and a superhero. Like that would have been new and interesting.
Yes.
And they decided, you know what, we're going to make a bunch of political stances this whole show.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah, like again, it's like I don't want to see you taking a political stance in the move. Like donate to what person you want to win. I don't care who Disney votes for, but make like She-Hulk's literally the whole thing is an agenda. Like it's like an agenda about like how mansplaining and how women have it harder and you know what I mean. It's like, okay, I'm not here to argue about that, but I just wanted to watch Hulk smash some stuff.
And with a lot of the stuff, it's becoming predictable too, and I kind of want to segue in this because I know we can rant a lot about this, but I don't want to get too off track. A lot of the stuff in general with Marvel and DC has become predictable and very easy to figure out, naturally so. But with a lot of these independent comics, let's talk about what's currently out. Like I said, we briefed it up earlier. They're very fresh and original. Walking Dead kind of fell flat just due to the popularity, but
just went too long. Like you said, mostly everything falls flat.
But like I'll use The Boys for example. You don't know who's gonna die. Like you truly don't know what's gonna happen. Umbrella Academy, it's always a big plot twist. Like I said, it's like they're not following like the traditional route, so to speak. Like they are in a sense, like for the bare bones of building something, but they're adding their own fresh, interesting ideas that captivate an audience and makes the show enjoyable. It doesn't make it feel like, oh, well, I know what's going to happen. They're going to save the day. It's like, well, no, everything's a very gray area.
Well, they pay homage
with like
to
Marvel
the
and
comic,
DC are like very black and white. And with a lot of these independent comics, it's like, oh, it could be black and white, but we make it very gray and like, oh, well, you can understand both sides, so to speak. And Marvel was doing that for a bit. DC kind of was very early on, or not very early on, but there was times where Marvel and DC were doing that. But independent comics and the current shows out have been very good about that. I was like, well, you just need to see there's not such a simple, oh, this guy's a bad guy, this guy's a good guy. I mean, there is bad and good, but it makes it a lot murkier, in my opinion.
I just think these newer ones are staying true to the comic. They're ripping scenes right out. Like, The Boys changed a lot. Me and Tom talked about this a lot. There's just, the comics are just very much so X-rated. So they basically just took out all the grapes and things like that. Essays, they took those all out. But besides that, a lot of the arc is still the same.
Yeah.
And the things they changed were okay. And they haven't done this like, oh, we're going to be inclusive and we're going to make Homelander gay, or, you know what I mean? Like Maeve always was. But they don't make it a huge deal in the show when, in reality, they could have done many episodes on it.
And they did it, too. They made Maeve a big deal, but, like, in
that, but
favor
not that
of the
part
show.
of that. Like, not like, oh, that's not a part of me. You know what I mean? I want that part to be separate. And, like, in most shows, they would be like, oh, I'm gay. I'm the, you know what I mean? I'm the star of the show now. Like, and that's from the comic as well. I think The Boys, Invincible, like these are ripped straight from the comic. They're doing scenes straight from the comic, and I think Marvel is shied away from that. They were doing it initially, and now they're like patting themselves on the back. And we're like, we're better than Stan Lee. We're just gonna write our own fucking story.
Which is ridiculous.
It's getting off the handles now, where They changed too much stuff, and now they're trying to keep up with what they changed with.
Yeah.
And I honestly think they should just, like I said, just do the comic, and whatever they change, retcon it, whatever you want to do. It's like
change it to make it make sense. I think that's the issue.
Or like do what The Last of Us did. It's like if you want to make up your own story, do it on some shit that doesn't matter. Like that was explained vaguely.
Or
like,
expand.
If you wanted to make some stuff up, do some stuff about Bucky's life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That like you aren't just making that you aren't changing. You know what I mean? You guys are adding.
Maybe
to
there is something, but it's very unfamiliar.
Yeah, like or you expand, like you said, expand on it. Like I just think they're getting too smart for themselves. I always thought that was the problem with the Harry Potter movies too, as well. To get on, I mean, a little bit off topic, that you have like this piece of media that people love already. Like has sold millions of copies, been read millions of times. Why are you changing it? Like people already told you they like it. It's a book and people have been buying it. Like if it's a book and people buy it, it's a good story. Like it's not a fucking movie that you watch on TV. Like if somebody bought the book to read, it's a good story. And I think Hollywood needs to just tell those stories instead of trying to put their political spin or whatever societal spin on it to think it'll sell more copies.
Yeah, I agree with that. So some of the stories that are coming out are in development. A lot of it's from Mark Millar, and Boom Studios. Those are two separate guys. To clarify, so one that's in development, and I'm very excited for this. Sean's heard me talk about it numerous times. I recommended it to him several times. Is Something Is Killing the Children. It is produced by Boom Studios. It's published by Boom Studios, and the producers of the show is going to be Baron Bo Oder and then Janty Fries. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. But they were the producers on 1899, that Netflix show, or no,
it's a Peacock.
Or Paramount Plus.
Isn't that the Yellowstone spinoff?
Yeah. It was written by James Tinian the fourth, and Werther okay, whatever. They're actually going to be co-executive producers on that, which if you watch our Last of Us episode, I'm very in favor of that, having the creators on the show.
I feel like all the shows, though, the creators are on, so it's like having a backbone and not letting them ruin your story is a better thing, because all the writers are always co-producers.
But Robert Kirkman kind of fell off from Walking Dead.
Like I said, he didn't have a backbone. He let them change the story instead of saying, no, this is my story, and like that's what they hired him for. And he just didn't either. They pushed him out, or he didn't have the balls to not let them ruin his story. Yeah,
and it's going to be 8 to 10 episodes. It's supposed to come out, my guess is late 2024. The script is currently being written, or they're about to start, something like that. And so that's a really good story, guys. What it's basically about is these monsters, like the children can only see, but it's from their nightmares, and they come to real life. Adults can't see them. But the children can, but there's these monster hunters, and they will kill said monster, because these monsters will just start feasting on the children. And it's like, and it's I think a really good place. But I'm going to go into this point in a little bit here. In general, this show specifically, I think it's a great placement to put right after all these hit shows that Netflix is leaving, because these are all pretty much going to Netflix. That I'm about to announce or about to name out here. So a lot of these shows are going to be great replacements for their hit shows. Stranger Things, Umbrella Academy, all that. Next on the list, we have Berserker. Again, that's produced by Boom Studios as well. They have a deal going on right now, clearly. The comic was actually written by Keanu Reeves. And it's actually going to come both as a live-action show, and they're going to have an anime adaptation, so that'll be pretty interesting. It follows an immortal warrior called Berserker who fights over the course of 80,000 years. It was a 12-issue series run, and I believe it's wrapped up. I don't know if they're going to produce any more. They said the 12th issue was the finale, but I never read it. Because it's funny now, it's being produced. Is like when I saw it, I was like, oh, this feels like such a cash grab. I'm like, I don't know why Keanu's doing a comic about. Like, it's like Keanu Reeves like drew himself. Well, not he didn't draw himself, but he made himself the main character. But I've heard a lot of great things about it, so I mean, maybe I'll have to check it out. Yeah. So that will be another great show. Like I said, it's a good replacement, good fill-in. And then I've never read this one, but it's called The Killer. Again, Boom Studios. This is the first one that's supposed to be coming. It's supposed to be coming 2022 this year, and the comic was written by Alexis Nolant. Michael Fassbender and Tilda Swinton are said to be the stars, and it's actually going to be directed by David Fincher. So these are some pretty big names we're going to be cooking up here. But it's about an assassin starting to grow a conscience and question his line of work, being an assassin. Like I said, actually, I'll just save this point. Let me get through all these real quick. And then the last one they actually just announced was American Jesus. That was produced by Dark Horse and Image. Written by Mark Miller. Jody, 12 years old, discovers he has Jesus-like powers. All he wants to do is impress this girl he has a crush on and stand up to his bullies. But obviously some stuff is going to go down, and we're going to see how it goes. Miller actually has a deal with Netflix on his comics. It's called like Miller World or something like that. But if you guys are comic readers, or if you want to go to the comic store, if you flip over anything written by Mark Miller, maybe not Kick-Ass, I'm not sure if it's on there or if they've reproduced it for the volumes. But if you look on the back of anything he's written recently or post Kick-Ass, you'll see like Netflix logo on the bottom right-hand corner on the back, or on the front too, if I'm not mistaken. For sure on the back. But he's had a deal, and I was actually talking to the comic guys. I'm like, so like when the show's can reproduce, because he has a lot of great content. Obviously, Kick-Ass. There's I've told Sean about this. The Magic Order. It's like a rated R version of Harry Potter, pretty much. Reborn was pretty good, and then Nightclub. Basically, is about like this vampires and like.
There's a show on Netflix called The Order, that's like Harry Potter, but
you've told me about kids. That. Maybe I'll have to look, but I don't know. But
it's not called Magical Order, and it's like it's kind of like The Magicians, but you didn't watch The Magicians.
No, but you've told me about that.
It's just like it's like an older version of Harry Potter, where like, but it's not like X-rated. They're just all like in college and not in high school.
But yeah, with all these shows coming in, and like these are really good stories. These are darker stories. I think that's obviously Marvel is just supposed to be bright and made for children nowadays. For the most part, obviously, there's give or takes. But
I think that's where they mess up too, trying to make them for children. Yeah. Like the reason kids kind of like comic books because it was a little bit of like fighting and adult stuff happening.
I was reading.
There's certain ones like like Spider-Man that are for kids. Yes. You know what I mean? But most of the other ones, like I wouldn't say they were for kids. People were dying. Like the Thanos arc, like he kills the whole like universe. Like you want your kid reading that? Like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know if they're for kids. I do think they try to make them too kid friendly instead of like, you know what? Like, unfortunately, like these are movies for us. Like Marvel's from the adults. Grew up. Yeah. Like they don't make new Marvel content. Like, so I think that's where they also missed up. It's like you should be making these for the adult people who are actually truly fans of it. Yeah. And it's like, if the kids become fans, then you know what I mean? You could deal with that in the later.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's a whole tangent. It's really disappointing. But sorry, I'm a little out of it, guys, today. Just full closure. I sparred, got my ass kicked, so I'm doing my best to stay on task here. But yeah, with a lot of these shows coming out, it's gonna help Netflix a lot because we've actually just did an episode. I think it came out a couple weeks ago, talk about the downfall of Netflix. Like they haven't produced anything new, fresh, interesting, so to speak. They've produced a couple good limited series that I've watched personally and I've enjoyed. I've recommended. I don't know if Sean's checked them out yet, but vice versa. Sean's probably watched a few things that's a Netflix original, to clarify. But yeah, so with a lot of this stuff, it's like, where am I going with this? A lot of this stuff, it's again, I just completely lost my thought, guys. I apologize. Give me a sec. All right, shut up. Fuck
Indie
off.
comics, Netflix.
Yeah. These stories are darker, more mature, and so a lot of these stories have cult followings. Obviously, Keanu Reeves has a cult following in his name alone. So the second that show comes out, I'm calling it right now that it's gonna go insane. Like Keanu Reeves is such a great guy, good person.
It sounds like an interesting concept if they can put it to paper. It kind of sounds like some Invincible shit.
Yeah, like it looks like it sounds like every episode is gonna time jump. I've never read the comics, so I'm just like guessing here. I don't know how it went, but if it's 80,000 years, I'm gonna assume we're gonna see.
What I would say is like make it about the comic because that's the best word of mouth. Yeah. Like Walking Dead went so hard because it was a great show, and then the people who love the comic were like, you got to keep watching because it gets even better. Like, and if you make it early on and the true fans don't like it, they're gonna be like, no, this sucks. Don't watch it. It's nothing like the other one. Yeah. And then you're just getting bad word of mouth.
Yeah, and that's the issue that, like Sean was saying earlier, like they have not really been staying true to the comics.
Yeah, and I feel like we're at a point in Marvel where they're like, what is happening right now? Like we have no idea what's happening. Like
we can even go back and say just Hollywood in general is doing that. After we talked about video games, from one screen, the small screen, to the big screen, they were doing very unfaithful things to the original story.
Yeah.
And that's our biggest complaint is like Sean says, like it's okay to like switch certain things, but like don't have Mary Jane be Spider-Man, and then you know what I mean, or like there's crazy things that make no sense, but they push a certain agenda.
I don't get, what is your fear? Like, just make the movie as same as the book or the comic, and then it's like if people don't like it, they didn't like you. Or it's like they didn't like what that guy wrote, like not you. It's like when you change it, then it's all on you now. Like, and we already had a sample size, like you said, a cold fall, and the people who already said I liked it.
Yes.
So if you change it now, what if everybody doesn't like it now? The people who already like it now, the new people, nobody likes it.
Yeah.
So it's like I would just personally make it true to the comic, and then at least worst case scenario, those people all like it, and then at least they'll keep watching my shit. We can do we'll gauge if we're gonna do another one after that. But you can't alienate everyone.
Correct. Yeah, no, because especially with Mark Miller and then James Tynion, he's obviously Mark Miller is a huge name, notably known for Kick-Ass. He's written a lot of he wrote Civil War. I mean, we're going to Marvel and other stuff, but what else did he write? He wrote Old Man Logan. His name alone has
Logan is great.
Yeah, he has a name. He has a weight to his name. Same thing with James. He's written a lot of Batman stories. I can't name some off the top of my head. But Something's Killing the Children was my introduction to him. Maybe not, but that was when I just noticed his work a lot more. And that's supposed to be a 5-issue series, but it was just so good. Now we're on issue number 30.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, Boom Studios usually does like a 5 series limited thing. But yeah, like there's so much material, and go back to our point of this episode is I know we've kind of speckled around here, talk about certain things, but the whole point of this episode is to say like Marvel and DC are falling off because I truly don't think they're gonna DC. It's hard to tell right now, but specifically Marvel and then Hollywood in general, like don't seem they really want to listen to the true general public, not Twitter fingers. They prefer to listen to the minority,
the loud minority.
Yeah, it's a loud minority, and
people who really love the show are just done, and they're not talking about it. They're not on Twitter complaining. But the people who think that She-Hulk should have a bigger role and she should be the new leader of the Avengers are screaming really loud, and that's just hyperbole. But that's what I mean. Like the people who don't know what the hell they're talking about are being loud, or the people who want you to include to make the next Captain America an Indian person, or you know what I mean? Just like weird. It's like that's not the story. If you don't like Marvel, that's fine. Like people need to grow a backbone and stop changing their content to make everyone happy. No book, no movie, no comic book, no newspaper. Every single person in the world is gonna pick up and read it or watch it and be like, "Oh, I completely agree with this." It's like make your freaking movie, and if they don't like it, they don't come to see it, and they don't watch it on Netflix. Who cares? But I think trying to make a movie that everyone's gonna love is a recipe for disaster. Yes. Instead of just trying to make a movie that's true to what you're doing. You know who does a good job of this? And they have some crappy movies, but Transformers. Yeah. They have some cash grab, no plot movies. And you know what? People go watch them. You know why? Because you know at the worst case scenario, you're gonna see a bunch of robots beating each other up. Yep. Like, and they do that very well, and they're unapologetic in it. And it does, like Transformers does good. And the last like 4 or 5 of them, like the movie sucked. Yeah. Like the acting and everything was going on sucked, but like they had some really good robot fighting scenes. Yeah, some snarky remarks. They bring Optimus Prime back. He does iconic things from the comic books, some nostalgia stuff from the cartoon. And they go home, and they spend a shit ton of money on those movies, and they always make their nut back. And like now, I think Marvel's, like I said, they're trying to make this movie that everyone's gonna love, and it's also gonna win an Oscar. And that's not happening.
No, you got to choose one or the other.
Yes, exactly.
You can't appeal.
Blockbusters don't win Oscars.
Correct. That's a really good point. With a lot, I don't want to. I want to really focus on Something's Killing the Children real quick. I guarantee you guys, when that show comes out, it's gonna be the hottest thing. I think.
No, I don't think. I think you're wrong.
I truly do, because
just the plot is kids dying, and like you said, gruesomely, it's not gonna be big.
It's gonna be big.
No, that's why it took. Like I said, I've been talking. It took The Boys. Seth Rogen said he was trying to get The Boys made for 15 years almost, because there's aspect they literally had to change so much stuff because a large portion of it is really sexual, in a way that you can't show on TV at all, and some very creative person found a way to navigate around all that and still tell your story. But in reality, they just took it all out because it really wasn't like super
necessary.
Yeah, they could have went around. I mean, in some parts it was, but they just took those parts out really. And like what you're saying, like it sounds really interesting, but the main what makes it so good is that like these monsters are gruesomely killing children. So it's like, how do you incorporate?
It gets really intricate. Like at the base, that I think that's gonna be the selling pitch. But then that's like the intricacies of the hunters, because there's different factions of the monster hunters, and then there's a place called House of Slaughter where they like it's a whole thing. There's a spin-off series called House of Slaughter. So I think that's gonna be a very.
I bet you if they did come out though, it'd be like the kids were having mental breakdowns or something. I guarantee it won't be like they're gruesomely dying.
I don't know. Because I think James is on that. Like he's a co-executive.
I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying like that's just not like something that gets put on TV. Like what?
Well, that's why it's on Netflix. I think it's gonna.
Well, I'm just saying what on Netflix where some kids are getting killed. Like
Stranger Things.
For real. Like who got killed gruesomely?
The brother.
He got killed gruesomely.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I ripped it apart.
But I guess that is true. But that was just one. And wasn't he like a teenager?
Yeah,
this is it teenagers.
Yeah, that's all like.
It's all anybody under 18.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. Like I said, me to like I just don't see like.
Well, I don't think they're gonna
be like some 8-year-olds getting gruesomely killed.
Well, I think we're gonna see them getting eaten, but I do agree. I think they're gonna.
Or like they're having like mental breakdowns or something.
They're not gonna shy. They're gonna kind of shy away to the gruesomeness, but I think it's still gonna be the children.
They're dying.
Eaten.
Yeah.
Well,
you have
I understand.
Well, the name is All the Children Are Dead or something.
Something's
killing the children.
That's such a cool title. Too.
Yeah. So the kids gotta die. So we'll see. I would envision it would be. Well, just the way you're describing it made it seem like the monsters are like ripping them apart.
They are in the comics.
That's what I mean.
I'm saying. I think they'll shy away. I think they'll still kill the kids.
But I think it'll be like they'll be ripping them apart mentally, like they're like getting sick and can't sleep, or like some weird having a mental breakdown, and then the monster eats them or something.
Yeah. It's just such a great comic. I have nothing but great things to say about it. The House of Slaughter thing got really confusing, their spin-off series. But with independent comics, this is a flaw about them, I will say, is like the gap in between of how far they drop. Like something killing the children's like once, like every other month, or like a month and a half, and like you forget because you're reading other comics in between. That's the only downfall of independent comics. But should we get into our fan picks?
Yeah.
You can go first. You want to do all three or do one?
I guess I'll do all three.
Yeah.
All right. The top of my list, I have The Wicked and The Divine. I am not done with this, but I really like it. It's based in a world where every 90 years, 12 young adults or children, they have to be under, they're like 18 or younger, get chosen by a god spirit, and they become like they have god powers for 2 years only, though. They like die after 2 years. And it's just like a really cool concept. The first one is like in 1830, and they got like not each issue, but they bounce around from different groups that came to be and their story. And there's like a old lady who like, she's immortal. She used to be a god, and she trains them. It's really interesting. Like I said, I only read the first couple issues, but I really like the concept, and I think it'd be really interesting, something they could put into the screen, like I said, because they get powers and they die in 2 years. So you could do a couple seasons and just be done with it. I think a lot of the problems with some of these comic books stuff is Hollywood is greedy, and if you don't give them an ending, they will ruin the show. Like if it doesn't have like Marvel's too long, so it just get like they're going to be going on for too long. They're going to ruin eventually. Yeah. And I think with shows like this where it's got like 2 seasons worth of like you can't really ruin that. And I think they should do something like you said with these Boom Studio stories that are like 1 season, 2 seasons, maybe something like that. Like, another one, I think I'll try to pick some ones that I thought that would transition to the main screen good. This one's called Fable. I haven't read all of them,
heard about that.
But yeah, it's like a bunch of like the fairy tales brought to life. Like,
who wrote it?
Oh, I didn't write down the names. I forgot because I did. These are just ones I read. I don't always have the thing. Well, I haven't read all of Fable, but I've read some of them. Fable's like. The Tooth Fairy or the Easter Bunny and all of them, but in adult stories. Like one of the ones I read was Cupid, and he was like what he was going about, and one like what the Tooth Fairy was doing when he's not getting teeth type of stuff. And I think that would transition well. And then this one I have finished. Well, I think it's not finished, but it's been around since like 2012. I think I've been reading this one for a long time. Written by Jonathan Hickman. He did all the new Avengers stuff. Recent, like in the 2010s, I think, when they did the new Avengers run. He's really good. It's called East of the West. This is a This is like a realistic comic. It's based on what if the Civil War never ended, and it's the United States, and it's still the Confederate, still the Union, and then it's like the United States is broken up into 5 or 6, maybe 7 factions, and it's the Union, the Confederate, freed slave or like slaves, like people who were slaves and they got away. There's a group of Chinese people, like I think they're Chinese exiles, and I can't remember.
What is it called?
East of the West by Jonathan Hickman.
That sounds really good.
Yeah,
I want to read it.
And
East of the West.
I think that one will be I don't know if the world's ready for that right now. I think it'd be a tipping point.
Yeah.
But I think that would be an awesome one. And Jonathan Hickman's great.
Yeah.
His run on the Avengers and Marvel is amazing. A lot of the stuff they're doing right now in Marvel Comics is based on what he wrote in his run and not the original run.
Yeah.
And but I think Jonathan Hickman's freaking awesome. He does.
Yeah, that sounds actually really interesting. I'm gonna have to pick that up.
East of the West is really good.
Yeah.
I've been reading that. Like I said, that one's old though.
Yeah.
I read that for the first issue probably like 10 years ago. Like it's old.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm going to read that very soon, actually, just because the faction. It sounds really interesting. My fan picks is the Magic Order by Mark Miller. Main reason is, again, he has a deal with Netflix for distributing his comics, and obviously, if he's distributing through Netflix, he's obviously going to. They also have the rights to like, we're gonna produce whatever comic we want of yours. I'm assuming why would you sign with Netflix for not doing that reason? And it's it's a really interesting story. It can replace Umbrella Academy. Like there's a family.
What's it about? Like is it a college?
No, so it's a family. I forgot their names. I kind of fell off of it because again, it's the same issue of like it takes forever to drop. But basically, it's about a family who has been part of the Magic Order, and they just keep everything in control. And then there's sometimes families or other families that come in and want to take them down. They want that power, and they want to be the high tier.
Control Magic.
Yeah, they want to be the bosses pretty much. And so it's always different circumstances. There's like a drug addict brother who's like always screwing everything up. There's like a it's just really complex and really weird and interesting.
Complex sounds like Umbrella Academy.
Yeah,
drug brother. Goody two shoes.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, like there's
whore sister.
Complex or intriguing.
No, it sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, but that does interest. It's magic. Anything with magic in it, I love.
Yeah, I know. That's what I keep telling.
Well, I was just saying there is a show on Netflix called The Order, but it's like a magic college where this kid goes to.
No, it's all like
he becomes a werewolf.
Yeah. But yeah, there's there's a one family versus family where so the Magic Order, they keep everything in check. So like whoever else uses magic, they eliminate them, or not eliminate, but like keep everything under control so the world doesn't explode. And so we have a family come in, start destroying everyone, start killing everyone off. Like I was saying about The Boys, is like there's no hold back. Like you die, you die, you die, you die. Obviously, with the show, we're going to get some of that kind of plot armor. That comes with every show to an extent, obviously.
Yeah.
Same thing with The Boys. It has that a bit, but it still has that.
They hire Aaron Taylor Johnson to play somebody, he's not getting killed.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, that one. And then this is one that's being made by Aftershock, another indie place. It's called There's Something Wrong with Patrick Todd, written by Ed Brisson. I think they're about to end it up because Aftershock only ever does like 5 issues. And they're taking forever to drop this last one. It's really annoying. But it's basically about this kid who has like mind control powers, and he's trying to help his mom. And he's like the last of his breed or something like that. And there's this guy who's like hates his breed because I guess it hasn't been revealed yet. But my guess is like that kid Patrick Todd breed and the powers he had from his father did something to the guy who's hunting him down with a machete. So it seems really interesting. I think it'd be a good limited series.
He can control people's minds, and the guy's trying to kill him with a machete.
Yeah, like because the guy, it's good.
Why don't you just control somebody's mind and say, "Hey, wait outside of my house every single day, kill this guy if he shows up."
He's a kid, all right. He's a kid. Just give me a break, all right. I think it'd be a good show. The last on here. I put Kick-Ass as a TV series. I loved the movie, the first one. Second one was okay. They had some shot-for-shot scenes from the Kick-Ass 2 comic, so I gave dope stuff. But anyways.
What about the first one? I never read the first comic.
There's only a difference like regarding like the relationship with Dave Lazuski and the girl. Not Hit Girl, but like his girlfriend.
Like he wasn't fucking her?
No.
I feel like they added that in.
They did.
It felt like it was out of place, but I know why they did because everyone was going to like it.
Yeah. But no, yeah, they never
She's
got
like, I wish I
together.
knew who Kick-Ass was because I'd fuck his brains out.
Yeah, no,
It's just so funny.
That was never a thing in the comics.
That was a weird comic too because they were like 16-year-olds. They were
Yeah.
it was so weird.
But like, I think I have no issue with it rebooting.
I don't know. I really like the original. The second one, I don't know.
It kind of fell flat for some part, but they're not.
Is Kick-Ass 2 the end of it?
No, there's supposed to be 3. There's 3. Kick-Ass 1, 2, and 3.
It hasn't come out yet. Like
No.
the comic never came out.
No, the comic's out. Like the comic is done.
I never read 3. I didn't read 1. Well, I like leaf through 1, but like you said, somebody told me 1 was like the same as the show.
Yeah, it was
so
just the relationship was different.
Yeah, so I never read it, but I did read 2, and I really liked it, and I didn't like the movie.
Yeah, it fell flat. I will say that.
I thought Jim Carrey was a good pick too.
Yeah.
And I just think it was bad. Like, if Jim Carrey can't nail it, you probably wrote a bad script because he's awesome.
Because also, like, they cut out a lot of the gruesomeness.
Yeah. I don't know why, because that was the best part about the first one.
Yeah.
I think people complain. They don't. They really don't like seeing a little.
That was during the big gun control thing.
Yeah, and people don't like seeing a little girl kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Like, people can say what all they want, but they don't want to see no little girl like stabbing people in the face.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah. Well, that one's like low budget too. So like they can do that. You know what I mean? And I'm glad it was successful.
I guess I don't know. I really like the guys who did it, and I didn't like to
because Mark Millar was the one who produced. Mark Miller, sorry, I keep saying Millar. Mark Miller produced
and the first one's so like I don't know if iconic's the word, but loved.
Yeah.
Your first season would have to be like you'd have to top that. Like there's so many iconic scenes in that movie where like when she's in the dark and the strobe lights and and he dies, but she kills everybody like. Are you gonna redo that scene?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how it would work because they have huge shoes to fill.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
People would hate if you ruined that scene.
Because all you have to do is like do the first season perfectly, and then after you clear the first,
or just do like a different like it. That's not how just like a different type of scene where he dies or like he drowns or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but like I say, you got because I agree. The first movie was amazing. That's what actually got me interested in the comic because it was pretty much.
That was one of the movies that got me really like super into comic, like indie type of comic. Like I'd always kind of read DC and Marvel, because you see those at like Walmart, like you know what I mean. You could go get those anywhere, like. But I saw Kick-Ass and I remember watching like, oh my god, and I remember like talking about it for a week, telling everybody you got to watch this movie. Like,
it was amazing. I have amazing. It on DVD
and then my buddy's like, yeah, it's a comic, and I'm like, oh shit, well I got to see the next one, and I read it. And when I read Kick-Ass, there was no Kick-Ass 3 when I read Kick-Ass 2. And then, like I said, I shortly after that read The Boys. I read Y shortly after that. But I think I read Kick-Ass first, and then I read The Boys, Y, and then I started reading a bunch of shit.
The main reason, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say the main reason I want to see it as a show is, like I said, the sequel fell flat, and I feel like in order for it to do proper justice, we have to see it.
You'd have to start it over with new characters.
And I would like that. It just feels like it's something because.
No, I definitely agree with that.
I was upset
if
that
they can't like reboot it from season 2 or start off at 3.
Yeah.
You're right. They would have to start over. Give us a new Kick-Ass to love.
Yeah, and I think it's very easy to cast because Aaron Taylor Johnson in the second one was like massively jacked. They were trying to hide it, but he just got big over time. He's a big guy.
Were they trying to hide it? Isn't the opening scene like him doing like pull up? I remember like this open scene like.
Well, like he was like getting help. They were trying to make him look like the still nerdy kid when he was in the first one. He was like skinny and scrawny, but from that movie to then, it was so funny. Like I was watching it actually the other day, and like they had him like in like double the size cover, but like he would fall down, and you would just see like how ripped his back is. Like his back, like he was.
Yeah,
like,
he was from the first. He was such a nerd in the first one.
So
yeah, that's a good movie. That'd be tough. They would have to do a really good job. Because
Nick Cage was great in it too.
Yeah.
Like I said,
that's what I'm saying. Everybody was like, it's hard to like all those guys put on really good.
But
performances.
I truly think if Mark Miller's producing it like he did the movie, I see no issue with it going around.
Yeah, and I honestly, if they were gonna reboot Kick-Ass, I'd do it animated.
Animated? That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I like something like Invincible. Then I'd definitely be down. Like I said, I think Aaron Taylor Johnson, Chloe, and Nick Cage all put on like
Mark Strong was the villain.
Crazy good performance. Mark Strong,
Christopher,
McLovin, like everybody was awesome. And it's like if you get one like miscast one of those people, it's gonna ruin the whole thing. Yeah. Like, so I don't know. That one's good. I didn't put this one on my list, but I think that somebody Netflix should pick up Y.
Yeah, you talked about that.
They did it on FX, and I thought it was good. It was okay. Like I don't want to say win any awards, but I thought it was playing pretty good to the comic. I read that the budget was just way too big.
Yeah.
But I think Netflix should pick it back up. I think it's got a really interesting arc. I think it's got built-in societal things that tie to what's going on in society now. You don't have to make them up. the society's going on now, a lot of people think like, oh, women could do it better than us type of thing. And I think that honestly, I think a lot of too was showing that clearly they couldn't. Everyone, like, you know what I mean? But I think that Netflix should pick Y back up. I think that it deserves at least another season or two.
Or just reboot it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, reboot it if you want to.
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
But I think the first, like I said, but it's only been like a year.
Yeah.
They could do what they've been doing with Lucifer and all them, get the same cast back.
They did that, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? They've done that. Lucifer, Prime did that with that space show that was on Sci-Fi.
Oh,
that
they
got
did
canceled.
that with shit. They did that with that YouTube show, Wayne.
Yeah,
Amazon did that. That was a really good show. I liked it a lot. I wish they produced another season of that here and there. But yeah, no. There's a comic called Saga. That's huge. That has like 3 like compendiums right now. So and I've heard rumors that's supposed to be produced, but that's such a huge story. So I think that's gonna come out soon. That's just random as shit. But that just popped in my head.
Another one I think I read it a couple days ago, maybe a week ago. Starhenge or Henge. I think it's Heng.
Okay.
Or Henge. Starhenge.
Okay.
It's about magic. It's about Merlin. When Merlin isn't a wizard, he's from the future, and he came back in time to like save magic because they need magic to beat this race in the future. It's a weird, it's a very interesting comment. Yeah. But I think I just read the first issue a couple days ago, and I think that might be something that would be interesting. They always make Merlin shit. They love that. People love that.
Mm-hmm. So basically, kind of wrap up this episode, guys. The point we're trying to make here is. Since Marvel and Hollywood and probably DC too have recently been falling flat with the storylines they have in their hands, like this notebook I currently have in my hand. They just don't want to. They're just neglecting the storylines they have, and they want to make it their own agenda and take their own spin on it because it's a whole ego trip of like, oh, we're better than the original iconic stories. This is where the opportunity where a lot of these independent comics can shine, and we've already seen that. Like I said, Walking Dead is easily the most iconic one.
I think the boys will be at the end.
I think it's better quality without a doubt.
Yeah.
But
as of right now, Walking Dead is the goat of comics brought to life.
Yes. And we're gonna see with Invincible, like we're seeing like a hostile takeover. It's like, all right, well, look at these comics. We're staying true to it. We adjust and or
to
expand.
Fit into like the seasons and things like that. Like I know adjustments have to be made, but it's like you take stuff out. You don't put stuff in.
Yes.
If you're gonna, you got to take filler out. You don't put your own spin on it. Like, oh, we'll do this. Like, no.
Yeah, and that's such a horrible.
And it's like if anybody would have seen that, you would have already been writing popular comics that people were reading. Like, you're not better than them. He knows better than you. Like,
yes. There's a reason why Marvel and DC are popular. It's not because I don't know how to make an example. They're popular because they've written great stories, and Hollywood has this issue, and it's always annoying.
And he wrote a story. He wasn't writing it to like appease people,
everyone.
Like people disenfranchised people.
He was he or she, whoever wrote whatever stories.
And sometimes they have like, you know what I mean. They say Professor X and Magneto or Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Like, occasionally they will tie in, but like every single comic book movie doesn't have to have some kind of agenda about stress or mental health or racism or LGBTQ. Like every single Marvel movie now, one of the underlying issues is that. And to close on this point, DC, I think I'll give them one more chance. But honestly, they were doing great with animated movies. They were really doing – their animated movies are so good. And I think they got jealous of Marvel. And they're like, we can make animated – or we could do live-action movies too. It's like, dude, your animated movies were way better. Who cares? And, like, your fans love them. And, like, people bought them and watched them. Like, I know so many grown-ass men who watch every single DC animated movie that come out. Yeah. Like, no matter what, they've seen them all. Like, so, like I said, and that's because they're ripped straight from the comic books. And I think they need to get right back to that, or they're going to get overtaken by some of these stories that are better. The indie stories have always been better.
Oh, yeah.
But Marvel – like has flashy characters, big names, and some cool like 10-year run stories where like Thanos and DC and Crisis Universe, you know what I mean, Darkseid. So that's what they have over these smaller indie things, but
they're pushing their own agenda.
Yeah, in between getting to those movies, they're like,
and that's what's losing our enjoyment out of them. Is like you have like, oh, we're gonna start Kane. And then we're like, well, actually, She-Hulk is dealing with a lot of things. And then Miss Marvel I enjoyed. But, like, there were some issues with Miss Marvel. Falcon and Winter Soldier had, like, I have a racism speech. Even though the whole story was
nationalism,
underlining.
like, all type of stuff.
Just,
and I understand it's Captain America, but like I said, like,
they were doing fine
give your speech in the middle. So I'm like, I'm not saying there's no speeches. I'm not saying no speech. He literally gave a speech when he should have been having the final fight.
Yes.
That was my problem with it. It's like there should have been a final fight type of thing. There really wasn't.
Yeah.
And they X'd out of the final, like the main fight to give a speech about racism.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Like, come on. And I'm fucking black. Like, I don't want to see I don't want Sam like, oh, I'm black Captain America now. Like, like, okay, we already knew that. Like,
yes.
You don't have to waste any time. Like, exactly. That was like that's what I was saying. We're not idiots. Like, we got the message from you.
Got it.
We were doing a good job, just it being the underlying.
You know what Marvel
message.
was doing? They were mansplaining.
Yeah, exactly. They were like the whole every episode's about racism, and then they're like,
and it was good.
Yeah, and it was fine. And they being like the underlying, and at the end they're like, racism is bad. And that's what this whole season meant. The end. Like,
and basically what it turned me into is a white supremacist.
Yeah, like,
so I
just silliness. Like, just get back to doing what we like and stop
stick
worrying
true to
about.
it.
They're too busy worried about people who don't even like your shit.
The cancel culture. That's what they're
like
scared
who aren't
about.
like who saw it with their boyfriend and only watched 35 minutes of the movie and saw a part they didn't like, but didn't see the movie before or the movie after or read the comic. Don't know anything, and they're like, oh, he said an insensitive thing about women. Canceled. Like, why doesn't Black Widow kill Thanos? Like, she could do it. She's a woman. Like, come on now. Like.
Yeah, no. So yeah, I'm very excited to see a lot of these independent comics come out. There's a million stories they have, like in general, like across the independent graphic novel franchise, like or that section. It's so many phenomenal stories. There's ones I'm reading right now that I want to put on the list because I don't think they're going to be produced. But these are the ones I put that are most likely and would translate well to the screen. I assume this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a few that I know that would never make it, or they're too old. Yeah. If they were going to be made, they would have been done it already.
Yeah. But yeah, that is it for this episode, guys. If you could just leave a like right now, subscribe down below, follow us on TikTok and Instagram, and also comment down below what indie comics you've read, what's your favorite comics in general, what should we discuss next episode.
Which ones we should read.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would love that. I'm a huge. Yeah, we're big. I go every week, like Sean knows. I read
mine online. But yeah, I read something new.
I got collections out here. I got bags. I got boxes on boxes. You know what time it is, cuz. But yeah, guys, that is it for this episode. Do us a favor. Oh, actually, I already did that. This is for the episode, guys. I am Tom. This is Sean, and we see you guys next episode. Take care.